Next, we want to look at other ways that we can summarize quantitative data. Now, another way that we often define numerical characteristics of a data set, rather than just maybe producing a histogram, is to give something called the 5-number summary. Now, the 5 values that are given in the 5-number summary just give significant locations that might be important for a quantitative data set. We start out with the minimum value. So that gives you the lowest number that came up in your sample. Then we give the first quartile. Then we give the median. Then the third quartile. So you're giving the quarter division points, okay, first, second, and third. Lastly, we give the largest value in the data set, the maximum. So the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum are what we mean by the 5-number summary. Now, a graphical representation of the 5-number summary is called the box plot, or the box and whisker plot. This graph is created by essentially drawing a box with 2 compartments in the center, and this is going to show you basically where the first quartile begins. The first box extends to the right to the median, and the second box starts at the median and extends to the third quartile. Now, from the edges of the box, okay, we draw what are called whiskers, or line segments, and basically they go from the center of the box out to the minimum or the maximum. And really, that's as long as they're not too far away. If they're too far away, the minimum or maximum may be an outlier, and what happens then is we give them a special symbol and draw the line segment to the next point closer in, as long as it's not an outlier. Now, the way that we define what the maximum length that line segment or whisker can be actually is 1.5 times the interquartile range. So if you don't have outliers, basically your box is going to go from the minimum to Q1 will be a line segment. Then you have a box from Q1 to the median, a box from the median to Q3, and then another line segment from Q3 out to the maximum value. We'll talk a little bit about checking for the IQR, 1.5 times that to identify outliers. But a lot of times we'll just sort of read plots that are given to us. Now, basically what we've got to do to pick off the 5-number summary again is find the minimum, the maximum, Q1, Q3, and the median. So we put those in orders, and basically this is going to be my 5-number summary. Okay. Now, what would I do to actually draw that? Okay, how could I draw that visually to represent the same information? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of minimize this window, and I'm going to open Paint, and I'm just going to do everything within the Paint window, and then we can copy and paste it in a little bit later. Okay, so let me pull this up, rearrange this a little bit. So one of the things I want to do is I want to make a number line. Okay, so what I can do is insert a straight line, okay, and then I can sort of label edges off of this. Okay, so let's put in some text. Okay, so I'll do a number line. Now I've got a cover from about at least 2750, maybe a little bit lower. So I'm just going to start at 2500, then 3000, and I'm just going to keep going. 3500, and I've got to make the box longer so they sort of all extend in one. And I'm just hitting the space bar about 8 times. Okay. Okay. And that'll be enough. Okay. And then I could actually get rid of this edge, because I'm not going to need all that out there. And then what I've got to do is come back and sort of figure out where my pieces are that I'm going to really need to focus in on. So I'm going to make this a little bigger. Okay, I don't think I want it 200, but well, I'll just leave it at 100. That's fine. Whatever. So what I want to do is come back and do some things like put boxes in. Okay, so what I sort of need to do is figure out, okay, what's the minimum? So the minimum is 2750. So I think I really want this bigger so the tools show up. So I think I'll make the line size a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to draw a line from about 2750 up to 3625. Okay. And then the other line segment will be from 4,750 to 6,000. So I can go ahead and do that one also. Well, I've got the line command out here. So those are going to be what are called the whiskers of the box plot. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to put in some rectangles. Okay, so I'm going to put one in that goes from about 3625 up to 4,000. And then the next one is going to go from 4,000, the median, up to 4,750. Okay, so again, another rectangle going basically from there, and it's going to go out to there. Okay, so now what you've got is basically you've got your minimum. Whoops, let me do that. Just get a pencil here. So the minimum is right here at 2,750. The first quartile, okay, so let me mark where the sort of major tick points maybe would be, and then come back and mark off what other values that we have. Okay, so I'm just sort of making little marks where these 500 point divisions are, and then I'll come back and let me make a thicker line here for the points I'm sort of sketching in. Okay, so that's sort of the minimum. Q1 would be 3625. Okay, so that's a little bit to the right of the 3500. 4,000, okay, is the median. 4,750 is Q3, and then the maximum is at 6,000 right there. So those are the 5 locations, okay, of the values that the box plot represents. And then what you'd want to do is really put a title on this. So this would be, you know, weights in pounds for 80 automobiles. And we probably want to capitalize words here. Okay. So then this would be what the box plot would look like in terms of the information. So then if I said, okay, what was the lightest vehicle, you know, to look at this left edge, and that would be about halfway in between those two numbers, so about 2,750 pounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this and copy it and put it in that document. Okay. And then you can see what we did for that graph. Okay, so if we go back, whoops, click the wrong button. There's Word. So you can see the box plot that we sort of constructed by hand. Now again, most people are going to use computers to do these constructions and everything, but you can see where the points were and how those match up with that 5-number summary, and that's how we did represent the information. Now if you look, the right box is wider than the left box, and the right line segment is wider than the left line segment. So looking just at the box plot, it makes me think that the data is a little bit skewed to the right. It's stretched out farther on the right than it is on the left. Okay, so one of the other things you can do is identify shapes sometimes with the box plots. Now the IQR is actually the distance from this left edge, right, at 3,625 pounds, to the right edge, 4,750 pounds. So that would be 1,125 pounds. I don't want to go more than 1.5 times that past this right edge. So the maximum that I would draw this line segment out to would be 4,750 pounds plus 1.5 times the difference in those two, or 1,125 pounds. Well, that would be roughly 1,600, a little bit more than that. 1,600 past 4,750 is beyond 6,000. So really, this is the correct way to draw the box. If that distance had been smaller, if these boxes had been closer together, this line segment would not ever be drawn that long. And software usually will automatically do those calculations for you. But that's sort of a rule of thumb or a way to identify outliers when you're talking about the 5-number summary and box plots. So we'll look at different data sets and stuff. There's a box plot example that's just separate from this one, that's also up on the notes in a video. So make sure that you look at that, and hopefully all of this stuff is pretty straightforward. The 5-number summary and the graph we get from it, the box plot, really are pretty straightforward things to do once you have your data set.